What is up, beautiful viewers out there? Today we have an amazing podcast. We have a great guest. His name is Kai Saunders, but I'm going to have him introduce himself.
Okay, so my name is Kai Saunders, known on the gram as AKA Saundezy, and that's my name. And I'm here in Arizona doing a podcast with Undialed, with White Trash Willie across from me.
So you're actually from across the other side of the world.
I am, believe it or not, yes.
So you are from Australia. What are you doing here in North America?
It's kind of weird, right? I'm a long way from home.
Yeah,
so
what are you doing out here?
What's led me here is I started off by doing a competition in Guadalajara, Mexico, which was absolutely awesome. And that's how my trip kind of all began. And I also have some family in Arizona too, so that's why I'm kind of basing myself at Arizona, in between also going to New York, which I'm going to be departing in the next few days, which should be awesome.
Nice, dude. So you came out to North America to initially go to Mexico, and you went down to Mexico for the coalition competition.
I did, yes.
You're a coalition vet at this point. Tell us about...
To some degree, yeah. Besides the first one, I guess you could say.
Tell us about coalition this year from your perspective. How did you like Mexico versus the other coalition spots?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think Mexico, like Guadalajara, stood out to me out of all coalitions as an area, definitely. And the spots were definitely one of a kind as well because... yeah, they were just like so gritty. It was just like, I don't know, like I thought Barcelona was like, you know, a different taste of culture, but like Guadalajara is like a step further than that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And we had a hire car, so it was just like this. We stuck out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? Driving around the streets and stuff. Because I feel like the locals, they're not used to seeing too many outsiders, especially because, from what I believe, Guadalajara is not necessarily like a touristy place. People usually go to like Cancun and stuff like that. So I feel like they're not used to seeing outsiders. So like 6 Caucasian dudes, you know what I mean, riding around in like a soccer mum van, like brand new white. We'll just copping looks left, right, and center. And we'll go on off the spot map. So we'll go into like some pretty sketchy areas. I don't know like how sketch the place is completely in general. I know a lot of riders didn't actually go to Coalition because it was in the area that it was in. But so I did get some sketchy vibes, but overall it was probably my favorite coalition, I think. It was definitely eye-opening for me, having grown up in the northern beaches of Sydney, Australia, a very nice area. So it was very eye-opening for me seeing, you know, how some of the locals get down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the way that they deal with poverty at certain levels that we're not normally exposed to.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I actually had the opportunity of going to Guadalajara about a year ago with Clayton for the TV Gram. I'm sure you've heard of it while you were there.
I do remember you telling me
the
about
Mexican Coalition for the Mexican Riders.
Yeah.
And it was like exactly what you said. It was a very eye-opening experience. I feel like there's a lot of things that we take for granted in the first world countries that we live in.
Oh, definitely.
That are daily struggles for people out there. And I mean, I couldn't even drink the drinking water.
Well, that's what I was just about to bring up too. Yeah, that's like the first thing that my mum was like stressing on me with going over to Guadalajara was like she was like stressing to just to not even touch like the tap water or anything like that. Make sure you get bottled water all the time. And that hearing that before I even went to and experienced what the place was like, that kind of threw me off a bit. I was like, that sounds sus. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess some places are just like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an obstacle that they have to face that we
don't.
We're
fortunately,
privileged enough to not have to deal with. But it's a reality that they have to face, which is unfortunate, you know. But
definitely.
Yeah, no. So, what was it like going to Coalition, but also having a trip ahead of you? Because I feel like that was a factor to it that I remember you telling me about a little bit. Going to Coalition and going and really putting yourself on the line, but also having that expectation of a trip. But then also beyond from that, it's not like American hospitals or Australian hospitals out there, you know.
Oh, that exactly.
It's like there's that whole other like immediate potentially danger.
See, I try not to even think about that because like that whole situation just here and with the hospital systems and the healthcare and stuff is just, in my opinion, from coming from Australia, is just so backwards. I think it's so whack. So I try not to even think about that or let that cross my mind, that aspect of things. But Yeah, with going back to what you said with the whole like having to do coalition straight away before like a month and a half, 2 month trip, definitely that kind of happened to me last time as well with the San Diego and LA coalition, and I feel like I definitely did hold back in that coalition compared to Barcelona and this year as well in Mexico. And of course, this is scootering, but that's not really coalition. But I definitely feel like in that situation, it held me back. But this time, surprisingly, it didn't. You know what I mean? Because I also feel like I almost had to prove something a little more too, because I was working for my signature deck video the whole time the time before in LA and San Diego, and I was going on a filming trip with Logan afterwards. So I was like, you know what I mean? And I was filming for this video that I was like really stoked on getting clips for. So I was like, damn, like it definitely held me back a little bit there, and I kind of played it safe, I feel. But this year, I feel like because I came back from an injury to a pretty bad rolled ankle, and it put me out for like 4 months. And I had only gone filming maybe like a handful of times before going on this trip. And so I feel like for me, I like not had to prove something, but I just feel like I had a bit more fire in me, you know what I mean? Regardless even of like the trip afterwards as well. I almost didn't even really think about it because it had been so long since I had traveled too. So I don't know.
Yeah, you had that fire inside of you that was like, okay, like I'm out here, I'm in this new energy. Do you feel like when you're traveling and you're out somewhere not in Australia, you have like this extra level of fire like behind your riding?
Definitely to some degree, but I feel like me as a person too, I always have found myself pushing the limits no matter where I'm at. Even if I'm just at the skate park having like a half a day session with like one homie and we're getting an Insta clip or something. Like I always try and like push myself or learn a new trick and stuff, but definitely to some degree for sure. And yeah, I feel like it definitely helped more going back to what I was saying. For me having with all the COVID situation and everything, not traveled since, like internationally, besides New Zealand in 2020, hadn't traveled internationally since like the end of 2019. So it had been like 3 years since I'd gone to America or anything, saw family, like saw anyone really outside of like Australia pretty much, or New Zealand. So
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was awesome. Well, it is awesome. Trip's still going.
Trip is still going.
It's a long one.
So a lot of people don't know this about you, but you're actually an American citizen as well.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Tell me, do you feel like that adds like a certain level of flexibility that other people wouldn't get to experience when they're traveling around? I feel like that opens up the door just to come to America more, right?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Because you don't have to get a visa anyway. And I feel like that might surprise a lot of people that I do have one. Because I haven't really like said that publicly or anything because it's just not important, I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All it really means is I can, not have a plane ticket on the way back when I'm actually organizing a trip. I can just stay for as long as I want, which is honestly like awesome.
If you didn't have a visa, would you be required to have a plane ticket back as well?
No.
No?
So I could just come and live here. Like I can just...
No, but I'm saying if you didn't have a visa, like if you didn't have the American...
Oh,
like
right. If I didn't have the American citizenship, would you need a visa? Is that what
Would you need to have a return plane ticket? Is that
Yes.
part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
If it were under the required days that you would need a visa for, then I don't... If you have a visa, I don't think you need a plane ticket back, but you just need to come back in that time.
Gotcha.
But I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you don't, it doesn't matter for you.
Yeah, no, it doesn't concern me. So shouts out to my mum for setting that up early, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's a huge blessing. I feel like having the ability to come to America and experience the great skate parks we have here, the great spots we have here, the great scooter scene, like that is such a piece of, I feel like scootering. I feel like
Oh yeah.
I feel like scootering really exists in like the Western states or like the Western countries and like Europe, what is it? Western Europe, America, Australia, the English speaking places. And I feel like you having the ability to come out to America for as long as you want gives you like almost like a leg up.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's also because like a lot of my I used to do a lot of family trips before they turned into like scooter trips, like full time and stuff like that. Like once every 2 years I used to come and see family. So I feel like I've always just come to the States, so it's definitely given me like a leg up to some degree with being like able to, network and come out and meet everyone and go to competitions and to be seen as like a worldwide rider in a sense, you know what I mean? Just with the places I'm getting to.
I feel like in
is awesome.
order to be at the highest caliber of a scooter rider, you need to be that worldwide rider.
Oh,
You know, I
definitely.
feel like there's already
Definitely.
too many riders out there that travel to that degree and have that level of engagement with that worldwide attention that like if you do want to step it up to that next level, it's like you almost have to be traveling around.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's
Yeah.
the big thing that separates.
And also to be like in everyone's minds and stuff, you know
That's
what I
what I'm
mean? Because
saying, yeah.
like you said, there's so many scooter riders and the world is so big, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, it's just
like no matter
it's kind
how-
of necessary. Yeah.
It's like no matter how good you are, you need to have that coverage, and I feel like that coverage comes from traveling around and like meeting the actual riders in the spots. You know, creating those in-person connections.
Exactly, meeting the riders, you know what I mean? Riding at all the different places, traveling in general is just like an amazing experience. And you learn so much as a person from, you know, doing that and experiencing things like that for sure.
Absolutely. So you mentioned ago that you said every single time you go out and ride, you're always trying to push it to the next level. How did you acquire that mindset towards scootering? Like, how did you gain a mindset?
Well, I'll rephrase that. I wouldn't say necessarily every time I ride trying to push it to the next level of scootering or anything like that. You know what I mean? But like, I'm never not just having like a half-assed session. Like never. You know what I mean? Like I'm always like dialing tricks that I want to get every tee or like trying to learn a new trick or something like that. But when it like, you know, I have mentioned this to you before, I struggle to learn new tricks if I don't film it. You know what I mean? So like I'm always constantly filming stuff, and that's what leads me to then, I guess, push the limits with like the tricks that I'm trying with filming and stuff like that, I guess, yeah.
Got you. So what's your mindset going into scootering most of the time? Like I know that you tackle very scary scooter tricks, but you also tackle like very technical tricks. How do you find the energy from within to even want to take on such ambitious things within scootering?
Yeah, well, I've always just like had a bit of a fire in me to always want to better myself and like with a craft that I enjoy or, you know, start learning things with it and, you know, start to enjoy it. I always want to put as much time and effort into it as possible or learn everything and get as good at it as possible and practice it as much as I can. So I feel like me just kind of having that mindset and being that type of person has allowed me to want to do that with also like kind of being competitive as well, you know, having a competitive mindset too. And like, I'm sure it's kind of bad to some degree as well, but being like quite a perfectionist and like kind of being hard on myself sometimes and questioning things, which can be, you know, dicey. So it's like, it's good and bad, pros and cons. But I feel like a mix of a lot of those things kind of give me that mindset. Definitely. And that drive towards scootering or anything that I enjoy really.
When you were initially like first discovering your passion for scootering, did you have the goal in your mind of like, I'm going to make this my career? Or is it kind of something that just happened that you're going with?
It just happened.
Just
I was
happened?
just going with it. I'll be completely honest. Yeah, I wasn't really like I'm a lot more switched on as I've gotten older with like, you know, being calculated and like planning things out and like, you know, seeing opportunities and stuff like that. But when I was a lot younger, I was kind of just like living in the moment a lot more. I just didn't enjoy school. I enjoyed scootering, and that's kind of just where I was at. And that's all I wanted to really do. You know what I mean? Like, so when I got the opportunity to leave at the end of year 10, which is honestly like quite common in Australia, typically people just go and get a trade and stuff like that though.
Yeah.
But I just like went into a TAFE course and didn't really enjoy it, and they made me get
It's a TAFE course.
it's just like university kind of.
Gotcha.
Not really. It's like a half-assed university kind of. But yeah, so they were like making me get like work experience outside, so a job as well for the course. And then I was like, nah, I'm out. I don't want to take any more time off scootering, so I just went at it just completely went hard at it. And like that was around the time when I first started copping a check from Phoenix, a monthly check, but it was very small, lower than all the other riders.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story in itself. But
was there like a decision at any point in time that you had that was like, okay, this is going to be like my career? Like, was there a moment or a thing that happened that was like, all right, now I'm going to like for sure take this serious. This is the life route I want to go down. Because initially it was just for fun.
I think probably as soon as I left school and just started doing it every single day, I think without even realizing that in itself is like deciding, you know what I mean? Like,
Your actions prove that.
yeah, actions speak louder than words or thoughts, I feel, you know what I mean? So like, I feel like without even making the like conscious decision, me doing the action to do that was making the decision in itself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just the work and the time and the effort creating just, yeah, the skill on the scooter and the just everything that I've learned from it is kind of just how it all came together, really. I can't remember like a specific time necessarily, but it just kind of all came together.
I feel like you had a really great infrastructure of friends in Sydney as well when you
Definitely.
were becoming a like making that decision. You know, you
Oh,
were
definitely.
around this
A lot of like-minded people, a lot of people that did the
almost
same
an
things.
iconic group at this point,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
What was it like scootering with all of them and in those earlier days? Like, and how did that influence the current person you are today?
Well, that's also what made it so fun. And that's why, like, it just outweighed everything else that there was. You know what I mean? Because, like, we were just going out every day making YouTube videos. You know, it's like the period that Saundezy sessions was happening. We're just running amok, you know, just having absolute laughs, banter, riding scooters, learning new tricks. Like, from the morning till the end of the day. It was just so much fun. And, like, yeah, I feel like... Sorry, what exactly did you say again?
How did that group of friends influence you to be the person you are today?
Yeah, well, like a lot of the things that happened along the way have definitely shaped everyone to be who they are today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The type of decisions people made and stuff. But I feel like all of us just kind of doing our thing together helped all of us as individuals learn and understand what we know today at a young age, you know, which helped us a lot to build our names and market ourselves well and stuff like that. And yeah, and also like Wes was also helping, like telling us a lot of tips and stuff like that, and like really directing us towards like posting on Instagram and stuff like that, which at the end of the day, you know what I mean, really helped. And I wouldn't regret any of the things that I did along the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like that was such a iconic period of like YouTube scootering history is when like you
For sure.
you were doing Saundezy sessions, Jacked Out was like creating all sorts of content, Wes was creating content, even Dunk was creating content, you know, it's
Yeah, that was like 2016, 2017, yeah. Even into 2018, yeah.
what do you think caused the I wouldn't say like the end of that friend group, but like that friend group isn't thriving like it once was. What do you think created the shift to like change that?
YouTube. Because everyone started, like, well, honestly, basically when Jack started making his own videos, that's when it kind of started to happen, because then, like, for example, Matt saw that he could then just go and make his own videos and people could just watch those and he could make money through that. So then Matt followed and went. I can't remember the order of who followed and did what, but like it was kind of the domino effect, you know what I mean? And by the time everyone started making their own videos, everyone was making videos of the same stuff. And there's just no point. So everyone started doing different things, and that's like when it started to break up, basically.
It's like at one point it was like the video would be of the organic group of all of you guys. You know what I mean? It would be like, all right, here's the video of me and my friend group. And then it was like everyone in the friend group was like, you know what? Why am I not the leader of
Why am I not the main character?
Exactly. And so then everyone was like making their own videos, but you couldn't have that group dynamic, which is the thing that the people initially loved.
Exactly.
If everyone's filming their own videos, because then everyone wants to have like the title, and it almost turns into a competition.
100%, yeah. And that's kind of like where the demise started to happen with it. To put it as simple as possible. Sure, there were more things, you know, a bit of drama between people, but that's as simple.
But the root of that drama was always like people searching for that spotlight role. That
I wouldn't say the root of the drama necessarily. Like, some people were immature back then and stuff like that. But that's, you know, why people stopped riding together. And then, yeah. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of sad to think about, hey, looking back on it.
I wish there was, you know what's funny is like, I feel like if there was a more solidified structure within scootering of ways that people could like make money and make livings.
Oh, well, yeah, it does go back to that.
It
does
would
go
like,
back to that.
That wouldn't be the issue, right? Like if
wouldn't.
everyone in your group was being paid well, it wouldn't create this almost like in a way, like a survival reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because like, it's hard not to be envious of your friend that you're spending every day with doing the same thing, but yet they're making
And let's be realistic.
$10,000 off of it and you're not.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Let's be realistic. It was either that route or theoretically in like survival mode, a job. You know what I mean? So I guess it does suck that it was at that stage too, and still is to some degree. But well, for sure. But yeah, that's definitely a big part of it too.
That was such an interesting little time within scootering. I feel like
It was.
They've
been interesting little periods. Hey,
yeah.
they have been.
I feel like that was like the iconic like YouTube vloggy time, but it's also interesting because I feel like it wasn't just scootering where those trends were relevant. You know, it's kind of like all of YouTube was being geared around like
That was like the YouTube like time. Yeah,
that's what a YouTuber was.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's like now you don't really see people making vlogs like that because that's not really what YouTube is anymore, I would say.
Not necessarily, no. Well, I mean, I still make vlogs and stuff like that, obviously, and I still enjoy it. And there's still like obviously quite a big audience for it on my channel, but for the most part, yeah, I feel like it's definitely like changed for sure. Definitely.
But it's like in order for you to make that interesting, you have to come to America. You have to go visit all of these interesting spots. The focus isn't on the friend group. The focus is on like the destination.
Exactly.
How you're applying yourself at the destination. It's not like you could just repeat the same thing back home every day. You know?
Exactly. And yeah, there's no point trying to recreate anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some good things are just meant to be left and just reminisced on sometimes, you know, and that's just that.
So you no longer live in Sydney anymore.
I don't know.
Why did you move?
So I moved because the scooter scene in Sydney it's dead. And which is actually very sad because Sydney, for like the states in Sydney, the states in Australia, I'd say in like 2012 up until like 2017 was the most popping state for scootering.
No, absolutely.
And then, you know, before you know it, a lot of people quit, a lot of people got jobs, a few people moved. You know, a few people from Sydney moved up to Brisbane, and that ultimately left little to no one there. So there were like a lot of times where I was just going riding by myself, or there were a lot of times where I was still riding with like Matt, you know what I mean? I was bugging him to come out on the scooter when he didn't even really ride too much. He still liked coming out, but there was really just not too many people to ride with. I was riding with like a few heads from like Newcastle, which was a town like a few hours up. They'd catch the train down. But other than that, a few people up like out west, like in Menai. But there were only short periods where they could ride frequently, and then they had to get like, you know, part-time jobs too. Like I was the only one in Sydney that, you know, took it as seriously as I do and kind of did what I do like full-time, like as a scooter rider. So there are a lot of people in Brisbane that do that, and that's where Native is from and stuff like that, and Syndicate. And there's a lot of people up there. Like even Kevin Austin moved from Sydney up to Brisbane. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who else. I don't think any more people have moved from Sydney, but there's just a lot of, like, Brisbane's the place definitely in Australia
the new Sydney.
now. It's the most poppin' state for sure.
So when you first initially got into scootering in Sydney, there must have been some sort of like pro structure to it. I know Cody Donovan was from there. Like, how much of a role did that pre-established like older scooter scene play into developing you as a rider?
Oh, definitely a lot. Like I used to watch Cody Donovan's videos back in the day. I mean, right.
And Friendly was based out of there too.
Yeah,
huh?
Friendly was based out of there. That was more like the street styled stuff. They had some really iconic stuff back in the day from Sydney. And then obviously I was watching a lot of like Luke Berland, Nick Air videos and stuff like that. That was big for scootering back
Was
in the
Nick
day.
out of Sydney?
Yep.
Really? I always thought he was out of
I don't want to get roasted in the comments because I should know this, but I'm 99% sure Nick Air's from Sydney, yeah.
Okay. I know.
Shit, I kind of want to take that back, but I'm going to run with it. Fuck it.
I feel like another thing that could have happened as well is I feel like indoor skate parks are like these vessels for communities, right? It's like the place.
Look at Monster.
Well, that's what I'm about to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if it never caught on fire and it was like the park that it once was, if it was still that, I wonder how much stronger the Sydney scooter community would be.
Yeah. Do you know the rumor with what happened with Monster?
No. I mean,
I don't know the full story. This was like when I was a kid. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus because I know like the owners and stuff, but I heard they lit their foam pit on fire for like insurance stuff.
I heard, okay, you know how it was like, it was basically like a curtain that separated like Monster from the other.
That's so funny. When I was a kid, I remember me and Dunk used to like hop up on the ramp when we used to go riding. We used to peek through and like yell shit at like, because it was like a dance studio next to it or something. The curtain, I remember that. Yeah.
What I heard is that something on the other side of the curtain caught on fire, and then it caught the curtain on fire, which then caught the foam pit on fire. Like it was like this whole thing.
I don't think they were filming cooking shows next door. I don't know about that. They were just dancing.
I feel like Monster was it was like one of those iconic, at least from like an American perspective, being an American scooter rider, observing the Australian scooter scene before I actually went there. It was like the main parks. It was like Shed, GC Compound,
Shed's iconic,
and then Monster. You know what I mean? Like Monster was like the logo of the snowman or whatever it was.
Yeah,
it was
fat Michelin man or whatever that thing was. Snowman, marshmallow guy. Yeah, R.I.P. GC Compound. I'm so happy I got to ride that when I was like 12.
Dude, I never got to see it.
Now it's gone. Did you ever get to ride the big Monster half pipe?
Yes, I got to go to Monster back when like Jessica Boland was working there.
Oh no way!
And remember Russo
she
projects?
Me out one time because I snuck in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember Russo?
I remember Russo.
I stayed with him in 2016, and I got to go to Monster Skate Park. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my like first international trip ever, really.
Holy crap.
And I feel like that defined me a lot as a scooter rider. It's like I got to meet so many iconic people. We like drove down to Melbourne.
Especially with Russo. He would have been in with like all the MGP dudes back then and stuff. Yeah.
I watched Billy Rainbow break his ankle at Monster. That was like really strange.
Isn't this after he like came back?
Yeah, he came back.
From like not disappearing, but just going off the grid.
He went off the grid. He came back. He's like, all right, I'm back, guys. And the session where he came back, he broke his ankle. And I just happened to be there. It was and that was it. Like,
wow.
That dusted after that.
Jesus. So weird.
But
yeah, Billy's a very nice but strange guy.
I remember he would just cut his scooter up so much. Remember he had like all the holes in his scooter.
Oh yeah, just drilling the holes. That was like a big thing. Like,
it's an Australian thing.
Yeah, I did that to an MGP deck back in the day.
Well, you kind of had to. They were so damn heavy.
Yeah, they were heavy as shit. That's hilarious.
So, going back up to Brisbane now, and that's where you live. That's where you move. How's the scene up there now? Like with all the riders up there. Like, do you enjoy it?
Oh, it's awesome. It's really awesome. There's so many riders up there, and I'm still getting used to it. You know what I mean? And I've only been there for like 8 months now, so. It's still going to kind of be a little fresh when I get back to, which is exciting. But there's like so many riders there that there's like separate groups of riders. You know what I mean? So there's like Zayden and like a few of the younger guys, and they kind of got their own little crew. Then there's like the native dudes, you know, Kevin and Reese and Levi and the older guys. And then there's like a few other just like loose heads. You know what I mean? There's a few stragglers. There's a lot of like young up and comers too and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of homies up there, yeah. And then there's like Dylan and Hopgood and stuff too. And there's more than I can count on my hands and feet. But it's cool. It's cool. I'm really enjoying it. There's always people to ride with, always things to do. It's awesome.
That's good. You have to have friends to scooter with, or else you'll just kind of have your passion dry up.
You'll burn out.
Yeah.
That's how I felt like it was slowly getting in Sydney. You know what I mean? So it was a necessary move. Definitely.
How's the scene in Melbourne around this time?
It's pretty dead now.
Is it drying up?
Pretty dead now.
I feel like a lot of those guys moved up to Brisbane. Like, I was thinking about like Sean, like the Scooter Hut guys, like Sean and Waza.
Oh, yeah.
They're like up at corporate Scooter Hut now.
True, I forgot they were from Melbourne, yeah. So, wait, Waza's from Sydney?
Oh yeah, he is from, but he moved up to Brisbane.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, true. Another rider. So yeah. I guess Sean moved. I know. What's weird is Angus Hughes moved from Sydney to Melbourne. It could have been for like, other reasons, obviously. Probably not for riding. I wouldn't imagine why you'd do that. But now that Juzzy's gone and Max is kind of in a full-time job.
And dad mode.
And dad mode, big-time dad mode, of course. You got to be when you have a kid, of course.
I feel like Max was like the Rock of Melbourne.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Max and Juzzy,
and Brendan as well, but he's gone.
Brendan Smith, wow.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that name in a bit.
He was such a legend.
Only when you miss a 50. Get it? When you hit a Smith. Did a Brendan.
Brendan 50.
Hit a Smith. Yeah, Brendan Smith, he was pushing the scene in Melbourne back in the day hardcore.
I feel like so much of the Australian like OG past was all based in Sydney and Melbourne. It's kind of an unfortunate, like, it's unfortunate hearing that the scooter scenes down there are like drying up, at least from what they used to be.
Yeah.
Do you see like a new emergence of like younger kids coming up or not so much?
Honestly, not so much, because there's probably younger riders and stuff like that, but I don't see it now that I'm not there. And it sucks because I was going to do like a ride day at my local skate park before I came, but then COVID kind of got in the way and then I moved. So it really sucks. I wasn't able to do that and give back a little bit to the community, from where I'm from and stuff. But I did do one in Brisbane, which was cool. But there are still like some younger riders there and stuff like that are involved around a scooter store down there. But they were all riding like here and there when I was living down there, so it's no one really knew that I've seen or anything. So no.
Do you think Scooter Hut has played a role in like the scene, like what the scene's done in Australia? Like having a consistent, like almost chain scooter shop. I feel like that's really unique, right? It's like the only scooter shop in the world that like
back in the day they had a huge influence. I feel like now they're going a bit, they're a bit whack. And especially like I heard,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think that's played a role
with how they've gone, the route they've taken?
Yeah, do you think the route that they've taken has affected the overall scooter scene in Australia? Like, do you think that's been playing factor?
Degree. Potentially, yeah. Because one, they drop the whole team for.
I think that was like a while ago. Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't really keep up with the drama all too much, but I've just heard a few things, and I know they like. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to put my 2 cents where I'm not too sure about.
I'm just trying to analyze all the signs.
I feel like, to some degree they're doing, I'm sure has affected the scene to some degree, but I'm sure they've had some positive effects on the scooter scene.
No, absolutely. I'm just trying to think like why would Melbourne and Sydney be such strong communities at one point, and then like
it also comes down to the fact that you look at like a lot of the OG older riders, you know what I mean? No one can make a living out of scootering, so there's no one to look up to some degree as well. There's almost no hope for the younger riders to some degree, because I feel like there's not, like there are people to look up to, obviously pro riders and stuff like that, but there's not a lot of, like I feel like a lot of younger people can kind of see to some degree like the difficulty in making a living out of scootering.
Mm-hmm. I feel like,
to put it simply,
I feel like when you were coming up in scootering, there was this really strong structure of pros that were making quite a bit of money at the time that you got to look at it and be like, this is something I want to dedicate my time to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like now it's like kids don't look at people the same way. That's something that I feel like I really want to.
Well, I'd be really interested to know, this is kind of gone, well, it's not really off topic, but I'd be really interested to know like what the MGP riders for those early years were getting paid. Like, do you have an idea?
I have no idea. I remember hearing.
Do you know what I mean?
I remember hearing
the Luke Pickett days.
Yeah, I remember hearing at one point that like Max was making a couple $1,000 a month off of Envy, and like.
Well, he was the top.
Yeah.
Dog back then.
Yeah, but it's like still, it's like that's like kind of unheard of for like pro riders now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'd like to think that like, if we could find that out, I'd love to see that there is a very gradual, well, not a gradual, but like, it's increased a lot. I'd like to think, but I don't know what they got paid back then. So it'd be interesting to know. Like the MGP guys, like R. Willie when he was on the MGP team back then, like Luke Pickett, all those dudes, Luke Berland, yada yada.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that or at least I hope that
Because the scene was popping back then too.
yeah, it's like what created the scene to get to that point then that like then could be recreated to like boost it up in attention once again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wonder like what that would take, what that would do. Like, does it really come down to just having more pro riders there, making careers that are inspiring kids?
I feel like that, and also like traveling with teams, like going out of your way to like I see a lot of stuff that like Ethic do, and I think it's great. They give back a lot to the scooter community and stuff like that, and like try and inspire a lot of young people. And I feel like there are a lot of factors, but there are a lot of steps that can be taken in the right direction. You know what I mean? I was just using that as an example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things.
No, that's interesting. Well, hey, changing subjects really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Arizona now.
I am, yeah.
How have you enjoyed your time out here?
It's been so sick. I've honestly my expectations have been exceeded, honestly, with how much fun I've had here and how many riders have actually been here. I really didn't know.
We have a great scene out here.
It's really sick because it's definitely, the experience is a lot different. Like I said, I didn't even know if I visited Arizona the last time in 2019 I came here, but probably like early 2019 or like late 2018, I would have visited family in Arizona, and it definitely was not like what it is now. You know what I mean? It's like 4 years ago or something like that. So I've definitely noticed a big difference in like just the vibe, you know what I mean, and how much fun I'm having, and like even just having you and Clayton up here is really sick, and then like Charlie and J Money and like Burritos up here too, and it's like, and Chase, you know what I mean, and Jeff, there's a lot of homies up here. It's really sick.
I feel like right now Arizona is kind of one of the powerhouses in America for like freestyle scootering.
Do you think it's a powerhouse?
In the grand scheme of the United States, I think that we have one of the strongest like communities down here. Absolutely. We just have so much resources. Like, unfortunately, AZ Grind is moving their location. So we had AZ Grind. We had like we have five other indoor.
The KTRs.
Yeah. Like,
don't even get me started.
We have so much infrastructure behind like ways people can scooter, plus all of the pros that are here, plus all of the content coming out of here. It's like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, it's sick. And is there any states that you can think of in America that have a scene as poppin' as this, or that do kind of, pump out as much?
I think at one point in time, San Diego was.
Well, they're kind of dead now, from what I've heard, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of. I feel like if anything, it's shifted to Arizona.
Yeah,
And I feel like what really needs to happen in all of scootering to like get that spark back is we just need to really show the example of friendships to kids. You know what I mean? I feel like that was that initial hook that got us all really intrigued into scootering, right? It was looking at these pro riders that had these friend groups that were great, these tours that they would go on that were sick.
The tour videos, really capturing every aspect of it, how much everyone gets along, you know what I mean, all the banter, how much like fun actually goes down in that, really showcasing what it actually is like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And I feel like here more than anywhere else, we're having content come out, it's like we have Daniel here creating all of the northern content. We have Undialed here, which is doing all sorts of content. It's like, and it's all kind of based around Arizona. And I feel like because of that, it's like you can see the progression of just younger kids. It's like they feel like if they apply themselves, there's an actual structure that will potentially help them out. But I feel like we need to do that on like a broader scale of scootering. It's like we got to do that as like as something way larger. It's like we got to be able to present scootering in a way that will inspire kids to see the potential that scootering can hold for them. But I feel like right now it's like that's up to the companies as well as the current top professional riders to create those endeavors. And I feel like what it comes down to is people sacrificing a little bit in the short term for the long term overall success, and I think that's kind of tough right now because we've had a lot of changes in the world very rapidly, and
definitely.
like there's not a
lot going on.
Yeah, there's
hectic.
The level of security just like within pursuing a passion
and uncertainty.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the uncertainty. It's like I feel like we're almost at an all-time high, and you could see that same pattern be relayed through all sorts of other industries as well. But I feel like the next step for scootering is to just like revitalize, like, hey, world, we're like this,
definitely.
we're this community that
It's
like
still so shook up. That's the thing, and it's crazy to think because while all that was going down, like COVID and all that kind of stuff. Like there was definitely, I was questioning if I ever was gonna like get back into the States. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like in a sense, you know what I mean. I obviously didn't doubt that I would, but because it was just going on for like 6 months, then a year, and then like 2 years, then 3 years, and it's just like, is this ever gonna end? You know what I mean? It was gnarly.
Well, tell me from an American perspective. Like, fortunately, I live in Arizona, and Arizona doesn't really give a fuck, to be honest with you. We have some people out here, like if there's any sort of like group of renegade people in America, like large clusters of them live in Arizona. It's just kind of the energy out here. It's very.
I feel like that's America in general.
But I feel like that piece of America is like very highlighted here in Arizona versus like Los Angeles versus some of the more.
Well, they come off really diverse.
Yeah, it's like they're. And I feel like what it is just like the way that people live their lives. That's like the funny thing about it. America's so broad. We have so many different types of things, but we never really shut down here for COVID. Like there was never a point where skate parks were closed. There was never a point that like we had.
Didn't you have a curfew or something like that?
It wasn't enforced. Like we had this thing called martial law for like what was it 2 days?
But the martial law was from the protests, not from.
Yeah, not COVID.
So the protest caused the martial law.
Yeah, but it was never
that people protesting against no action taken with COVID.
No, it wasn't about COVID. It was about like the rioting and the looting that was happening and the protest for like the BLM. All of that was going down simultaneously.
Right. Yep,
but nothing shut for COVID. You know, like you had to. You didn't even have to wear your mask in most places, to be honest with you. It was only like big chains where you really had to like have your mask. The airport, obviously. But it's like, I feel like in Australia, at least what we've heard from an American like point of view, it's like you guys were locked down. Like you guys were getting pressed by like the police, like all sorts of stuff. Tell me what that was like going through COVID from your perspective. Like, how did you scooter? How did you keep your sanity?
I still had some flat bar sessions, of course. And I also still broke the rules because I'm not one just to like... people can take this how they want, and I'm sure a lot of sensitive people might be like, this is kind of selfish, and I'm sure some people will agree, but it's like everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But at the end of the day, I was like, you've only got this one life. You were born on here to do what you want, within your boundaries, you know what I mean?
Yeah, within your physical boundaries.
And what's right and what's wrong. So I'm not just going to be kept inside my house because, someone's telling me to and not go out and do what I want to do, you know what I mean, for weeks. So I still went to the skate park and stuff like that, and I almost got fines a few times. But at the end of the day, I was just...
Did it feel like you were riding a spot?
Kind of, yeah.
Like when you were at the skate park, it was like, the security's going to be here.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But like people were still allowed out. Like it wasn't like a ghost town. It wasn't like it was just
that's when they were talking about Australia in America. That's how they portrayed it. They literally portrayed it like people.
No one's out.
One's out. Like,
but people were still allowed out. Like, how do you think people got essential exercise? See, skate parks weren't viewed as like essential exercise, but going for a run in the park or like going to the local gym equipment outside or whatever is, as long as you have the right distance or masks or whatever the requirements were. I didn't pay attention because I didn't care. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that's so you still were allowed out for essential exercise, and that was my argue was like, I don't go for runs, I don't lift weights, I push a scooter, I do full whips. Yeah, you know what I mean. So like that's my exercise. That's how I don't get fat. You know what I mean. So it's like that's how I'm going to exercise.
Did you know anybody that got completely like paralyzed by what was going on in the media that didn't leave their house?
There were a lot of people because there was fear instated into people from the media and from peers and what people are telling them and people around you and stuff. And like obviously a lot of younger people were influenced by their parents and stuff like this. But there were obviously a lot of people that weren't. And like, for example, it's pretty gnarly, but I feel like I got forced to get vaccinated to some degree because like that's the only reason I'm able to be here right now, pretty much. Otherwise, I would have had to jump through hoops, pay extra money. I'm sure there may have been a way. I remember Kevin Austin, he's like anti-vax and stuff like that. Will not get it. A few people in Brisbane are, and they were telling me because they were going to go to Coalition, but they just lagged and left it to the last minute. So they're just like, but it was going to be extra expensive for them because they were going to have to like go through all these different places like that had different requirements to like get into a place instead of just going direct. And
it's crazy that money could allow you to have more choice over your body.
Well, that's the thing. I still have doubts about it because that would make me question how fucking crazy all this shit is, because it's like if you can just go and pay, like, you know, go on these special flights or whatever and you can still travel, but yet they're saying you can't leave the state or the country unless you're vaccinated. Like they're like foot down, that's that. You know what I mean?
Unless you have enough money.
Yeah, or clearly unless if you have enough money, clearly. Like, but yeah, it's just so backwards to me. So I really kind of wish they tried it because I would have been so interested to see if they got turned around or if they actually made it, because then I would have been like, this world is just backwards. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What state is Sydney in Australia? I forget. Because don't you have like 6 states or something like that?
New South Wales, yeah.
Was there a state that was more enforcement of COVID restrictions than other states?
Victoria was the worst, I believe, which was Melbourne and stuff like that.
I think that's where we were getting most of the media coverage from, was like down there.
Well, I think they were just locked up for a lot longer and stuff like that. And then it was Sydney had it the next, and then Brisbane had it the least. They had it, like it was still enforced and stuff like that, but they didn't get locked down as bad.
Gotcha.
Because the different states had different
regulations.
Yeah, or they had different like amounts of people getting affected and stuff like that. So it's like they took it. Different states took it seriously and some didn't.
It's crazy, like how we just all went through like a worldwide economic and like social collapse in a sense. And now it's just like, all right, well, like now it's done. Like now we're here. You know what I mean? Like
it's kind of weird how things kind of happen and then they're just forgotten about. Like a lot of those things, you know what I mean? I feel like even like, I mean, I don't watch the news, so maybe
I don't either.
Maybe it happens to me a little. Well, not really, because I still have it in my mind and stuff. But I feel like the Black Lives Matter, you know, the LGBTQ or whatever. Like, there's been a lot of like things that have happened and stuff like this, and like it gets so much coverage and it's so important. Obviously, you know what I mean. It all is. But then, as soon as the next thing happens, or as soon as it stops getting like
the attention,
posted on the news, or as soon as people literally just get over it, it's like almost like scrolling Instagram to some degree. Like,
you know, what's funny is there was this whole
it just doesn't matter almost.
It was this whole like
weird,
like I guess mindset thing towards like clickbaiting on YouTube among scooter riders. You know what I'm trying to say? There was that whole wave of it where people were like, "Did a bug get in there,
bro? There's a flea in it."
It's not a flea.
I don't know, bro.
It's just, bro, it's so hot out here. You wanted to drink. Oh man. But it's crazy how in scootering we had this whole like moment where it was like, oh, you're clickbaiting this video. You're the clickbait, blah blah blah, and it was like this almost like this tension. You know what I'm talking about? But it's like, let's just look at like the world for a second. You know, you look at all these news stories that come out, and it's like, wait,
it's all clickbait.
Wait, is this just clickbait? Is this the same pattern we witnessed in scootering, but just like on a more broad scale? Like
literally, yeah. It's weird. It's so weird.
That's so funny.
I know.
So you're in Arizona here for a little bit now. What's next after this?
So after this, like I mentioned before, I'm going to New York next, which should be very exciting.
Nice. What would you go in there for?
So I'm going to New York to film a video with Camville Lawrence, who's one of the homies from Australia, and we're just going to get to it. We're just going to get down and dirty. We're just going to get amongst that New York grime. You know what I mean? Really soak up the vibe, have some pizza slices, some Philly cheesesteaks.
Have you been to New York before?
For one day.
One day. I still have not been to New York.
Really?
No, it's one of the. It's like the U.S. city I haven't been to.
Right. I'm surprised.
I know. I feel like I would have been there by
You
now.
gotta go, bro.
But
Come with, man. Come with.
I'll sneak in your suitcase.
Yeah, come with.
Are you excited to create a New York style video?
I'm very excited because you're walking into this with 3 weeks and a whole lot of spots. New York is loaded, and like I said, I got the little app. I'm chilling. You know what I mean? So like, there's so much to go off. 3 weeks with Cam by my side, willing to film whenever he wants. He's getting paid for it, so it's like.
Is this for native?
This is for native, yes. So literally, it's as easy as going out and choosing whatever. You can get as creative as you want. You know what I mean? It's going to be so awesome.
Do you feel like your mindset going into this video is different than your mindset going into Coalition because you're about to go home after that versus you have a whole trip?
Yes, I want to. Well, to some degree, like I said, I feel like I didn't hold back at all in this Coalition.
Okay.
Which is great. Sure, there could have been some death-defying spots that I could have just sent myself down, but you gotta weigh it up as well. And honestly, in Mexico, going back to the spots a little bit, there were some really, really good crazy gems there and stuff like that, but there wasn't anything that's like death-defying. There wasn't too much like make or break crazy like 20 rails, like. You know what I mean? Rail to rails. Like there was amazing spots, but there wasn't like, and I feel like some people, if they're watching this, can relate to me. Some people that were in Coalition that ride at this level, you know what I mean? There was a lot of amazing, great spots that you can do a lot of crazy stuff on, but they're compared to at least Barcelona and LA and San Diego, and probably even Paris. I think Paris is kind of air.
Paris is kind of
from what I've heard,
relative to like Spain.
Yeah, but those other 3 places are just like, you can find anything there. Like, if you're wanting to, you can find a 40 rail. Like, if you're willing, like a nice steep straight into the ground guy. I'm just saying, Is
that what you're gonna do in New York? Is that what you're seeking?
I'll go up one. No, I don't know. No, I'm going into this video with a very interesting mindset to try and get really cool trick and spot selection, and also go into it wanting to kind of be a little loose, be a little jiggy. And also, like I said, good trick and spot selection. But I want to have like a good variety, because I have heard from a few people that I had a lot of like diversity in the Coalition video, which I took to heart, and I appreciate that. I'm like, sick, all right, I want to do more like that, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I had a bit of everything. Had a kink rail, had some 50s, had some non-50s, bit of gaps, manual stuff. I want to get all of that in like the New York. I want to like try and cover all aspects and get a bit buck as well, because I'm going home anyway. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So speaking of mindset, I feel like for all the kids out there watching and just people in general that are listening to this, I feel like one thing that sets you apart from a lot of riders is
It's about to take a sip, bro.
extra protein.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think I already drank one.
One thing that I feel like separates you from other riders is your ability to step up to enormous spots, right? And potentially like death-defying things. When you're in the mindset or in the zone to do a death-defying stunt, suppose let's talk about a fat double kink handrail, you're about to front 50 it or something. What do you think about when you're like getting, like the camera guy is like, all right, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, and it's go time. Like what do you think about? How do you pace yourself? Like, what do you do to prepare yourself to do something gnarly?
Well, depending on the spot, you gotta, the spot will speak to you. You know what I mean? So you rock up to it. If it's a big sendy guy and there's really nowhere to warm up on the spot, you take it to the flat. You get the juices flowing. You try and psych yourself up a little bit. You even warm up at a skate park. Even go to some like smaller rails or similar kind of styled stuff. You know what I mean? Or if it's like, something like a 50 kink rail or something that isn't as like death-defying as like maybe a huge gap to a rail or like a steep huge down rail or something like that. You can work up to a little more. You know what I mean? You don't just send yourself down it. You can hop onto the 50 hop down. And then you can kind of get the feel for it and kind of work up to it a bit. So the spot speaks to you. You know what I mean? You gauge what the spot's telling you.
What advice would you give to someone that has rails pretty good in a skate park, but is trying to bridge that gap to street riding, because I feel like that jump is almost similar to, like, if I was going to relate it to park scootering, it'd be like taking it from resi to like wood. You know what I mean? It's like you're taking
like a gnarly like. Yeah, I picture the mentality with trying like a gnarly trick that you've done to resi, but then sending it over like a wood box. Where
is
it's
the
like,
same as like you have a trick in the skate park, but then you have to apply it to the street. You know what I mean? It's like
I feel like it's a little different still though, because the aspects are the same with the park riding. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, technically with the street riding, it's the same.
but not, because you're comparing a skate park rail to a street rail.
It's still steel.
It's steel, but there's banks compared to stairs per se.
Yeah.
The size is so different. You know what I mean? And that's what makes the jump a lot bigger. Whereas park riding, it's more the mental factor, or worst case scenario, the roll in at the end is like a bit steeper. You know what I mean? Like, or the takeoff ramp's a little different.
How did you tune your mindset to be able to be like, all right, I'm going to apply myself like I do in the skate park to the streets? Like, what did that journey look like for you?
It also depends on your mindset. I know people that like, well, me personally, I dial a trick in the skate parks, and then till I've got it every try, till I've got it comfortably. And when I've got a trick comfortably, I'm comfortable to do it on a spot. But I know people that don't even really like fuck around in the parks too much, you know what I mean? But will like for example, like a mediocre hard trick that you can get pumped on in the skate park. Let me just throw a trick out there. A full whip lip slide, you know what I mean? Like, it's a hard trick in the skate park. Let's just say someone wanted to do that in the streets. There's two type of mentalities. There's my mentality where it's like, I'll dial that on any rail in the skate park and then take it to a street rail. But there's people that like will maybe land that once, not even bother doing it again, because they're just like, I'm just going to wait to send it on a rail. You know what I mean? So there's different types of mentality.
Do you ever just wait to send it on a rail, or do you always get it dialed in the park?
I ride parks a lot, so I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I ride parks more than I ride street. So
I feel like every scooter rider does.
Yeah, basically, like, so I feel
every
like
scooter rider's a park rider.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, I feel like if it's a rail trick, you know what I mean? Typically, you're going to be doing it on something 7 tens to bigger. So you're probably going to want to dial it. The smartest thing is to dial it in the park first. It just makes the most sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But because the trick is still scary regardless. You're just making the process a little easier for yourself, getting the trick better and getting your confidence a little up. But like I said, some people are just comfortable with just, you know, barely knowing how to do a trick and just trying it on a huge rail.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know people that, there's some people that do that, and I'm just like, I don't get that.
I wonder what they think about.
We'd have to get one of them sitting here.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
there's like two different types of mentalities towards it.
Because I feel like I'm really similar to you. Like, I would never just go for a new learn on a street handrail. You know what I'm saying?
For example, like for example, I can't picture me. I haven't done a heel front 50 down like a decently sized park rail yet, but I wouldn't just go and take that to the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But there's probably someone that would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just do it. But because in their head, it's like, if I'm going to try the trick anyway, I may as well just go all out, which I get it.
I don't get it. I mean, like, okay, I get it because it's all just like percentage. Everything is risk. You know what I mean? But it's like, for me, it's like, I feel like a big aspect of the trick is like your confidence going into it and all of these things.
Well, for me, that's a lot of aspect to it too. So it's like, yeah.
It's like, I don't, like, sure, it feels good every once in a while to like completely scare the shit out of yourself and like accomplish something. But
see, I feel like sometimes even my tricks like just scare me anyways. So it's like I want to have my shit dialed because I'm not trying to get more scared.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's already scary enough doing the trick you know how to do on the feature. It's imagine doing one step beyond that of doing a trick you don't even know.
Exactly.
Like, damn, fuck that.
Bro, Will.
What?
$100,000, bro. Are you doing a trick you've never even done down a 15 rail, bro?
What's the trick?
I don't know. What's the trick, man? You tell me.
Okay, so a trick that I have well on park rails
that you haven't done on a street rail.
That I haven't done on a street rail is a bar back 50.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like I can do them pretty decently on park handrails. It's scary on park handrails. Like it is. Like it's just like I never really mess them up. Like whenever I go for it, I get it for the most part. But I still get like anxiety. Like
Oh, of course.
all right, like like I don't want to accidentally bar back lip this. You know what I mean? Because I won't be set up right. Like I'm just like, like and if I was just to be like, all right, go to the street handrail, like, bro, like 100K.
And we're talking about a bar 50. That's a trick you've done.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Imagine a
bar
okay.
twist back 50. Or a whip back 50.
Yeah, hard way whip back 50. 100K. Are you doing it, bro? You stepping up to the plate?
Dude, I don't think I could. Like, I don't think that I could, like, it would have to, the stars would have to align.
Oh, man. You'd have to see a 5-5-5 and a 4-4-4 and a 3-3.
Yeah. All, like, simultaneously.
Yeah.
All right, we're locked in, baby. Patterns are set. Like,
Yeah, that's so funny.
That's funny. Yeah, no, do you think we're gonna see a hard whip back 50 on a street rail soon? Because that still hasn't been.
I think so.
We still has not been done on a
think
street
so.
rail.
I think so.
Who do you think's gonna do? Are you gonna be the one to do it?
It's already been done. Not by me. I've already said too much.
It has been done
Maybe.
on something fat though.
I don't know.
Like I see
Do
people.
you think it's been done?
I think it's probably been done if it has been done on like a 6 to 10 stair range.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like on a six.
Oh, you're talking like a...
Like someone whip back 50s Hollywood, for example. You know what I'm trying to say? Like whip back 50s like something legit. Like we look
whip
at the
front wasn't enough, eh? We want to whip back, do we?
Well, I feel like whip back is equivalent to heel front. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
the
like
hard way in. Yeah,
it's like you have to jump and the first part of the whip has to clear the rail.
Yeah.
It's not like you do a whip front 50 where it's like the last part of the whip has to clear it and then you do it. You know, and I feel like that right there, like that really changes the dynamic of the entire trick, you know?
Sure.
It's like park rails are so small that you can get away with it easier because clearing the rail initially isn't necessarily the objective. But I feel like if you're on like a real street rail, it's like you literally have to jump over the rail, whip,
or super far away
yeah.
and cruise towards it, which I feel like would be your best bet. You know what I mean? Which is gnarly.
or if you whipped under the rail
As you were coming like
up.
Oh, you have to time that good.
Yeah, like whip underneath it, but so by the time that like the whip comes
Oh my
around,
God.
it like goes on top.
you better hope there's no side poles.
Whip. Okay, Nick Tedrick has done whip to over 50,
Over back 50, yeah.
but I almost feel like that would be easier because it's
Then a
like
whip back 50 for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Even though technically on that same rail, over 50 would be a lot harder than just straight back 50.
Yeah, like I've got whip back 50s pretty good in the park and stuff like that. But when you try it like before, you know, so picture a flat bar, you know, you whip before, you're coming up backside, but you whip before the rail starts and you lock into a back 50. But like when I've done like sometimes I muck around and like do them next to ledges or next to flat bars, and that's when you have to like whip away and cruise into it. And I just picture like doing that on a rail, and yeah, it'd be gnarly.
I feel like, you know, those spots where it's almost like a step down to a rail, where the rail is like offset a little bit, and it's like you have that little bit of travel time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the most ideal spot you could do it, because you could do the whip, and by the time you get to the top of the rail, you're like you've already cleared it. You know what I mean?
That'd be the
I feel like that's where we're gonna see it first done
yeah,
on something huge. You know what I mean? Like I think it's got to be like that sort of setup
for sure. I think you're right.
for sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like there's so many tricks that are very common scooter tricks as their own that just have never been combined together, even in the skate park. For example, one of the most common street tricks is a backlip. I feel like backlip is like a staple like rail trick. And then on the park side of scootering, a kickless is like a staple like park trick. But still no one has done kickless backlip.
I was just thinking that. Imagine a nice kickless backlip.
Like what?
So many people would shame upon it, but I'd like to see one.
Dude,
If there's anyone
that
out
should
there,
be so sick. I don't think anybody would shame it.
if there's anyone out there that can kickless and backlip, please do a kickless backlip. Don't make me try and do one.
But on a street rail, though. On a street rail.
Oh, that's a whole different game.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, call up
Who could do
Call
it?
up Cody. Nah, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't hit a rail.
The other one is like inward backflip.
Oh no, Dante's got it. Dante's got the kickless backflip.
It's true.
Jazzy.
Nah,
Juzzy doesn't trick in.
he doesn't trick in like that.
He doesn't trick in.
It would have to be one of those riders that like a Lucas D'Amelio or like, Geoff that does like those gnarly like whip bar front boards and stuff like that. I was just watching him in the live stream today. You know what I'm talking about from Spain.
Well, let's put a bounty on it.
Put a bounty on
Put
it.
a bounty on it. God damn. Right here, right now.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to see like where the future of scootering and the tricks go, because I feel like there's just so much potential of just tricks that just haven't been done together.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Like, I wonder if it's going to plateau with, like, how far people are, like, pushing it, because we're just seeing flips out of rails, like, 50s are getting so normalized on, like, big rails now. Like, you're needing to start to do them on kink rails, and, like, tricks in between even and stuff like that are starting to get expected to some degree. And it's like, I wonder how fast it's going to keep climbing at the rate it's climbing, or if there's going to be I'm sure, like, surely there'll be a point where it, like, kind of plateaus or levels out for a bit, you know what I mean? Because, like, each coalition, there's, like, a handful of tricks that are just, like, from either teams that are just, like, next level, you know what I mean? Whether it be manuals or flips out of rails or, like, huge rails. I don't even know. It's just, you know what I mean?
So a conversation that I had actually with Will Judy not too long ago.
During Woodward,
we were talking about in mathematics.
May I have a sip?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, bro.
There's no bugs in there.
Thank you, bro. I hope not.
In mathematics, they have different densities of infinity. So there's basically like there's infinities, but there's certain infinities that are more dense than other infinities.
Does that make them more infinite?
So though, regardless of the infinity, it goes on forever. But in certain infinities, there's just more options. There's more spots in between. They're technically like equal, but it's like if you were to take a sliver of each one of those infinities, there'd be more dense in one versus the other. And we were comparing that with like the trick variety in action sports, right? So there's an infinity amount of skateboard tricks. There's an infinity amount of rollerblade tricks. There's an infinity amount of BMX tricks. There's an infinity amount of scooter tricks.
Would you say BMX infinity amount?
Every single one. Hypothetically, you could add a bar spin to.
Oh, right.
You know, like
not
you could
individual, but if you're adding combos and putting
the combo, but it's like the scooter, I think, is the highest density of infinity for action sports. There's just the most variety of scooter tricks. Basically, any skateboard trick you can do on a scooter, any BMX trick you can do on a scooter, but you can't say the same thing about BMX to skateboarding. You can't say the same thing about BMXing to skateboarding, And it's like we have such a dense amount of tricks within scootering, which I think is what makes it the ultimate trick device. So
I love it. That's
so
sick.
so one thing that I want to think about is like we're watching this. You're asking like, I wonder if it'll plateau. It's like, well, we're kind of observing this new craft, right? The scootering is this new craft that is, I would say, more densely populated with tricks than any. So it's like maybe
less chance of that happening.
So it's like, I think that it still has the potential of happening, but I think we have a way longer retainer. You know what I mean? Like we have a way longer area of time before that ends up happening. You know what I mean? Because there's just so many different intricacies of tricks.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about a bar twist, for example. There's bar twist, untwist, in-twist.
And then there's the oppo bar twist, oppo.
And that's just with one hand.
That creates all the full twist and fun twist variations and shit. It just goes on.
And then it's like, you want to factor
switch.
You want to factor in switch. Oh. And then the other interesting thing about scootering is scooters are the only device that you can do switch fakie nollies on. You can't switch fakie nollie a skateboard because then that just goes back to you regularly riding.
True.
But on a scooter, since it's directional vehicle, you technically can ride switch, be going fakie, and pop a nollie. Mm-hmm. But you can't do that on it.
Whereas on skateboard, it would theoretically be, riding switch, going fakie, and popping a nollie is a fakie.
It's just an ollie. It's just an ollie.
Wait. I'd have to stand on a skateboard to kind of wrap my head around it. I get so confused with like, you know, rolling fakie with standing switch. Okay. Okay, so this is normal. This is switch. Switch is a fakie ollie. Switch nollie's a fakie ollie.
So, but it just goes back, like it doesn't add up. You know what I mean? It's not like you can factor that up. But I could do a switch fakie nollie whip.
Yeah. And then a normal fakie nollie whip.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
saying.
so that's where the density of infinity comes in. It's like there's an unlimited amount of tricks on any one of these mediums, but it's like we have such a dense amount. And I feel like I was thinking about it today when I was doing the live stream for the Madrid Urban World Series. I was like, our switch that we can kind of compare it to in scootering, it's almost like fakie is our switch. It's like it's not actually like switch is our switch. We barely have anybody that rides switch like at all. And it's like and if you do, it's like this unique kind of thing. It's like, oh, he's a unique rider because he rides switch. Sure, there's people that switch their feet and that's just how they like land their tricks. But it's like this realm of scootering that I feel like we just haven't even occupied yet because there's already so much more other shit to do.
That we haven't even explored or maxed out. Yeah, I get what you mean.
It's like we haven't gotten to
people will go to that eventually when like
when it's like everything else is kind of
squeeze.
Yeah, but it's like we're not even close to squeezing the juice out of what we got right now.
The towel's full, bro.
Yeah, dude. And I wonder like what that's going to mean for the future of scootering.
Yeah,
you know,
it's gonna help. You know,
absolutely.
In many areas.
It's not going to hurt it, right?
No, definitely not. What do you think's more dense as a toy, a fingerboard or a kendama? Because I thought about the flip tricks. There's so much different shit you can do, but think about a kendama, bro. It looks like there's less to do, but when you break it down and get combo-y and flip it,
which is a more dense infinity?
Yeah.
Sheesh, that's a good question. I
don't even know if you can answer that one almost.
I think that I don't understand kendamas well enough to like really evaluate it in that sense. And I feel like I understand the intricacies of skateboarding well relative to me understand the intricacies of kendama.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm able to relay these certain patterns. And I feel like there's this really structured format to skateboarding where we've seen more elevated layers of progression and we're able to see how things in certain realms have plateaued. Like in certain areas of skateboarding, things have plateaued, like in vert skateboarding. That's kind of plateaued out.
Yeah.
But in other realms of skateboarding, like doing late tricks, that's kind of like what people do now. It's like that's like the thing, right?
I was going to say, dude, I'm kind of bummed we don't have vert scooter riding, bro.
We'll see. We do. We just haven't explored it yet. It's like that's still juice.
Dude, imagine that. Just seeing people just go like, because you know how the bars compared to skateboards, like with the vert quarters, the bars are our worst enemies. Like compared to skateboards, because they just float over that shit. But the bars kind of like do get in your way a little bit with the pop on the vert quarters. At least like with me, I have seen some people
that's one Achilles heel of scootering is we're not able to get as pitted. You know what I'm trying to say? We're not able to, through tight transition and like vertical stuff.
Tight transition for sure. Yeah, you're right. Like tight bowls, tight pockets.
It's like the bars literally just get in the way.
Like really quick humps. Like you see skaters, they can like go over the quickest shit by just like shifting their feet. You know what I mean? But like us, like we lose it because it's
the bars, but also we have less clearance.
Definitely.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like when you think about, like for example, I think it's harder to probably 50 a kink rail on a scooter than it is to 50 a kink rail on a skateboard or even a bike. Because when you're 50ing a kink trail on a skateboard, unless it's like dumb steep, you know what I mean? Like unless it's like really like a gnarly kink.
Where your tail's going to get caught up on the flat.
Even your deck. You know, it's like majority
of the tail. I mean the front of the deck. Like imagine a kink so steep where like you know what I mean? You're on the trucks and you get jammed.
It's like on a kink trail on a skateboard, it's like I'll use my knuckle. It's like they're able to like literally ride through the kink. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
their trucks connect the entire time.
Oh, and on flat to downs,
it's like
we unconnect,
and we disconnect for a
it's a
second.
whole new grind each time.
Yeah, because it's like we're not grinding on these raised down points, you know. And the same thing with the BMX bike is like when they're going through a kink, it's like both pegs are connected the entire time. But on a scooter, it's like at certain points you're almost in a 5-0 and you drop it down, and it's like it's interesting. Like
that's because the wheels are so big, hey, and the pegs are so high up, right, on bikes that it kind of allows you to sit next to it. And
well, you don't have a
through
deck on a bike.
Very true.
Imagine hitting a kink trail on a scooter where the deck would
with
just
no
like
side.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Side
you'd be able
pieces.
just to like ride through it.
But it's the pegs, but no side pieces.
Yeah. Like
I'm trying to picture how that would feel. That would be wild.
but you wouldn't have to do like.
Oh yeah, because you'd fall in. Each peg would just be like there'd be no deck. Like
So you would
that'd
literally
be
just ride
weird.
through it.
That'd be so weird.
And I feel like that's why BMXers. And then you got to think about this, for example. It's like how are rollerbladers able to hit such gnarly kink trails? It's like, well, each one of the points for their contact is like a whole different like leg.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the entire time going through a kink trail, it's like both are connected.
Yeah.
But it's like on a scooter, it's like there's points where it's like you're
I feel like even with a board slide, you know, you still, even on the down flats, you're the whole time. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, we're talking about 50s being disconnected, you know. Think of a 50 on a kink compared to a board slide, how much more connected you are, like, in a 50 compared to a board slide. So board slides are even more, like, disconnected. But then again, you could say the same thing with a board slide on a skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, they have so much concave, bro.
That like they're
Our decks are flat.
Yeah, so we get hung up
Except
easier.
for the Europa, bro.
That's
I think
true.
that's the future with the kink rails, man. Although I've rode a little. Have you rode that deck before?
I personally have ridden it, but I haven't tested it. You know what I'm saying? Like I've just kind of cruised around like
on
very
someone else's
briefly,
scooter.
but I haven't like explored the intricacies of like how that concave really changes the game.
I rode a flat bar for like a good bit, and I fucked with like the 50s. I fucked with like the boards, the back lips, and it's like boards and back lips and anything in between beside a 50 or a 5.0 is a whole new like grind. Like it's just like it'd be good for kink rails, but holy shit, like you know you need to be used to it. Otherwise, you're gonna die. Like literally, you're gonna fucking die like so easily. Like. You know, because it's so easy to lean forward because it's not a flat surface. You know what I mean? You like literally add the tiniest bit of like lean, and you're like done. But I feel like they'd flow through kink so well, and like they have a lot of concave. Oh no, it's like the bottom is
yeah, it's rounded, so it's like when you're
on a 50, bro, that's not even touching either.
Well, you're in your 50, you got to think about this. When you're doing like a legit 50 on a rail, you're never flat. You're always angled, right? You're creating a V between your deck and your wheels. And that pinch point is what your balance point is,
Wait,
right?
What do you mean when going through kink rails?
Or just not even, just on rails. It's like when you're in that perfect 50, you're not just flat on top of the rail, you're arched over a little bit. That's why circle rails are so much easier to hold your balance, is because you can angle it over.
Oh, you mean side to side.
So, but it's like, but if your deck is like angled up a little bit, like if it's curved, it's like you're able to like kind
lean
of
on square.
Yeah, like lean into it a little bit easy.
What I'm saying is like, so think about this, right? The deck end, the front and the back deck ends are completely level with like the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't concave at all, but the deck still concaves on the bottom hella, convex or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So when you hit a 50, all you feel is the front and the back drop out. So there's like zero friction. So it's like dummy buttery. You hop in that thing and you just glide because there's like no deck touching it. It's only the two pegs, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
It's-
no.
I feel like that's almost like
I feel
I'm
like
trying to keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like that's where it's at. I don't know about too much of that, but I feel like you have to have that in order to get the less frictions.
I feel like that's definitely going to be a future thing for scooters
to be played with, yeah.
Is like, I feel like it took us long enough just to get to the flat bottom, right? Took us a long time to get there. And now that we're at the flat bottom, it's like, all right, we're at the safe base.
What's next?
what is the ultimate way to have a grinding deck? You know what I mean? It's like what's the ultimate way that we can do this?
I think maybe it's too much, but I feel like they're onto something.
Like, dude, I'm so curious. What do you feel about the future of scootering in more of just like a broad sense, not necessarily just with like how decks are designed, but like what are your hopes for the future?
The direction it's all going and stuff. What are my hopes?
Yeah, what do you hope to see in the future? And where do you and if more than just hopes, like what patterns have you analyzed that you see that might be coming together?
Right. Well, one thing I do hope to see, there's two big things, and I know they're going to happen, and some people might disagree. And I have heard that it's kind of been like the demise of skateboarding a little bit, but I would love to see commercial brands within scootering. You know what I mean? Obviously. And scootering in the Olympics, you know, just being like broadcasted as a way more like legit thing up there with like everything else, you know what I mean, in that sense. So like that, and definitely I hope it just like keeps continuing to go in the right directions with like how it's perceived and like, you know, how people from the outside look at it as well, because I feel like that's like really improving and stuff like that. And I mean, that's not anything that I feel like we're doing. That's just like our presence being here for a long enough time for people to get used to it, you know what I mean? Because obviously we're not like trying to change anyone's opinions. Like we don't care.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't like
no one scooters to be cool.
That's what I was exactly about.
And that's why our community is so great.
Exactly.
It's because it's only pure individuals.
Exactly. So I feel like, you know, everything is heading in a good direction. Obviously there are slight things that I feel like could maybe take a little bit of a turn and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, it'll all play its course out, you know what I mean? And like the things that are necessary to stay will stay. And I feel like the things that I kind of just like mentioned will diminish eventually when people realize, well, they're not needed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting. I'm so curious about what the future of scootering is going to unveil, right? I feel like
I can't wait to be a part of it the whole time and just watch it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Become what it's going to become. And it's so amazing to see it become what it's already become. You know what I mean? From when I started.
For real, yeah.
From when you even started, and Clayton probably. When did you guys start riding?
I started about 13 years ago when I was 12 years old.
What year?
So that was...
I'm not trying to add it up, so just tell me.
I'm thinking right now. I need to add it up.
Yeah, add it up, man. Take your time. At least I'm not doing
it. So it would be like 2008.
Okay, true.
2008 is when I like first seriously like.
Were you in the scene in 2000? Like were you?
I feel like
aware?
that was my like my light introduction into the scene. But real talk, I've been scootering since I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, right.
Like I've had a Razor scooter my whole life. And
but when were you tricking? You know, when were you cool?
I don't think I've ever been cool.
Right. Well, that sucks. No, but like when would you say? Because I feel like everyone has a scooter.
When I was like a freshman in high school, so I was 15 years old, so 10 years ago.
So
yeah,
that's when you'd officially kind of say you started. That.
Yeah. But I like had an invested interest in scootering, but I was still a little bit more preoccupied with like playing lacrosse, with other things. And
were you aware of videos that were going on? Were you trying tricks yourself at that stage?
Absolutely. I was trying tricks, yeah.
Well, let's say you were scootering then, to some degree.
Yeah.
Even if it were have been.
But it wasn't like my main girl. You know what I'm trying to say? It wasn't my main thing.
It was a side piece.
Yeah, it was a side piece at the time. But then that's really when I was like, you know what? Like this is what I love. This is what I love doing with my time, you know? And I felt like it brought me this level of like friendship that I feel like my first introduction to that friendship was going to Woodward. Just when my first time ever going to Woodward, I was like, I found my tribe of people. Like here they are. And it was, I kind of like created an illusion in my head of like, oh, there's this solidified structure to scootering that if I pursue, I'll be able to like make a job out of. That delusion led me to getting to the top of scootering, looking down and realizing there's no structure to this crap at all.
Yeah.
And then realizing that my purpose in scootering is to develop that structure.
Yep.
You know, like I tricked myself into thinking that there was this whole developed structure. Turns out there wasn't. Now it's like, well, I believe there's something. I had a vision for something, that there's a vision, like how can I construct that? And then I feel like that's like my real purpose in scootering is constructing that. And I feel like even this podcast is a small piece of that. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So
It's all chipping away at it, you know what I mean?
I feel like we all are, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly.
My goal is one of my main goals in scootering is to create avenues and paths for riders to go down where they don't necessarily have to be super entrepreneurs to live off of scootering. And I feel like right now it's like if you want to live off scootering, you have to be lots of different things. You have to be at the pinnacle of doing tricks, but 2, you have to have
to be paid as a pro rider.
You have to have a personality, but 3, you have to have this certain level of being tenacious. That's like I'm gonna go after these endeavors that no one's really ever done before.
Exactly.
And it's like
people might not.
And those aren't just tricks. Those are like speaking with people, doing this. And fortunately, I feel like I'm built in a sense where I can take on all of that. But I know a lot of people who are more on the athletic side, the more of like that don't think about things as thoroughly or as constructively as I think about. What they think about is executing the scooter trick, right? It's like they don't think about the patterns of scootering like I do, and it's like that's almost not fair to them, where they have to sacrifice.
See, the thing is, dude, is I feel like in a lot of my younger years, is that's all my mind was on. You know what I mean? And I feel like because of how it is, that has made me need to think.
But it's like imagine if there was a structure where you didn't have to think about like the way the politics were in scootering. You were just an athlete that was subscribed to this community, to the structure that then brought you up. It wasn't your responsibility to have a YouTube channel. It wasn't your responsibility to have ownership in some sort of big thing within scootering like that. That shouldn't be the case for every single rider trying to make a career out of it.
Literally.
Like, and my goal is to create something that will give that opportunity to kids for them to hyper focus on being the best athlete that they can be. Because if there's certain people out there that hate Instagram, but they're raw athletes.
Yeah, for
like
real.
I look at Chris Ferris, for example.
But that holds them back. You know what I mean?
I look at Chris Ferris, raw athlete, raw dude. But like he's not the best at Instagram. And I love Chris to death. You know what I mean? That's my boy. He's a great person to hang out with. But it's like you have to have this certain level of like personality to like shine on Instagram. But that personality traits don't necessarily align with the personality traits of being a raw athlete. For sure. You know what I mean? And it's like you have to be some very selective person to like be able to combine those. And a lot of the times the people who are raw athletes have other people running the social media, and it's like, how do we put the scooter riders in the position where they just have to focus on scootering and all of the other things are taken care of? Exactly. And then one step beyond that, there's lots of scooter riders that aren't raw athletes, but they want to have a job in this other structure of scootering, putting them in the positions to like coexist together and really like put on scootering.
Yeah, just take over.
So I feel like that's like the goal. That's like how I see the future of scootering playing out. And I think that a big part of that is what you said about corporate sponsors.
Of course.
Getting the corporate sponsors involved, taking the weight off of scooter companies' shoulders, being obligated to pay their riders, putting more money into sampling parts, putting more money into putting trips on, and it's like if a company didn't have to pay salaries and all of that salary money went straight into 3 more trips a year, and if every company did that, there would be
so much to showcase.
Hundreds of more scooter videos a year.
Oh my god, it'd be gnarly.
And then all of the people on the trip wouldn't have to worry about also keeping up with their YouTube channel, also keeping up with their social medias. It's like the product that they're producing through all of this, it pays for it.
Exactly.
Which
it should.
So I feel like
which it 100% should.
I feel like getting that whole thing going is like that's really the next step.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. That definitely lines up with like a lot of things that I've thought towards scootering too and stuff like that for sure. So I'd agree. That is like the right direction to go towards.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I feel like This reality is very strange, right?
is.
We all kind of are just
an
existing,
experience, eh?
and I feel like we've gotten to this point, right? And this point's pretty damn cool.
pretty cool, man.
And I can only just see it getting better from here. You know what I mean?
Same.
So it's just like I feel like if we just keep doing what we feel like is the direct right next step, like that's just what's going to ultimately lead us to a better spot.
100%.
But
I totally agree, dude.
hell yeah. Well, hey, I think that's a pretty good stopping point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like it. Unless there's anything else you'd like to cover, but
I think I'm good, bro. I think that the audience got to see the side of Kai that you wouldn't normally otherwise see. You know what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say? I feel like it brings a lot of personality behind the writers. And that's the entire purpose of this podcast.
oh,
is-
100%.
And
Some of those questions definitely shook it out of me a little bit, you know what I mean? It's definitely out of the ordinary from usual podcast questions, so
hell yeah.
I
Well,
like it.
I hope you guys at home enjoyed this video. If you guys want to see more podcasts, go check out the other episodes that we got. And otherwise, I'll catch you until the next episode. Peace.